We're recording.
We're recording. We're live.
Mhm.
I will call the meeting to order. You can all join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will start with public comments.
Question, Mr. Chairman. I had asked to be on the agenda this evening, but I don't see myself on there. So am I, use my voice. Am I operating under the citizens' comment portion, or do we have an agenda item?
Yeah, as we discussed, we it's not our standard practice to put people on as agenda items. So you can make a public comment during public comments.
And that's it? There's no dialogue?
Right.
Well, I can say this in 3 minutes. Well, the board, thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Donald Bowman, 158 Mountain Road, Deerfield, New Hampshire. Been here for 45 years and as a member of this board for 12. I have some very troubling figures to bring you tonight. And hopefully the little dinger won't go off before I finish. These facts come from state agencies, not from YouTube or Facebook or Ding Dong or any of those things. These are all state agency figures. Due to the COVID situation, our students across the country have been put back. Some say a year, some say 3, I would say a generation. For New Hampshire, math 40%, reading 37%, science 51%, writing none, 0, nil. That's 4th graders. 8th graders, 4 years later, math down 29%, 11% to 29, from 40 to 29. Reading from 37 to 33. Science from 51 to 46. Writing finally made it at 39%. Those are atrocious figures by any standard that you want to measure education by. And those are the facts for the state of New Hampshire. And those were taken between 4th grade and 8th grade reading, science, etc. The question I have before the board is, what the hell is going on? Why aren't you educating the kids? Why is this sliding? And we're starting at COVID with the 40%-ish. New Hampshire schools are not even above 50% across the nation. But more specifically, what the hell is going on here in Deerfield? Why are the kids not getting an education? It certainly isn't because we're spending enough money here. From the New Hampshire House Finance Committee, building aid, 2019, $219,000, 937. 20, $224.47, 478. 21, 229, 1,213. 22, 234,156. And here's the bingo. 2023, $19,739 in change was sent from the state to Deerfield, specifically education, not the town. The town received about $4,216,000, it seems.
So unfortunately, the 3 minutes is up.
So again,
The 3 minutes for the public comment is up. A member could make a motion to extend your public comment period if they so choose.
well, unless we're going to have some dialogue, there's no sense in expending it because out of $19 million, you didn't have one damn nickel that you sent back to the town for tax relief. And we get hit with 30 and 40% tax increases. It's time for a new school board around here. For the new people who are coming onto the board for their first term, you have a couple of years to turn this around. For the people who've been on this board for more than a term, it's time for you to seek other employment. You are not educating the children, you're getting a ton of money, and we have a beautiful parking lot. I really love it. Not one nickel of that parking lot went to educating your kids. Not one nickel. Where the hell is the accelerated math? Where's the accelerated reading? Where's the accelerated reading? When do we get our kids up to being educated? That's your job. You're failing it miserably.
Thank you for your comment. I'm gonna have to.
And my 3 minutes are up, and thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate the limited time for me to present this.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Me and you, Harvey Road, but I'm here on behalf of the trustees of the funds. On December 20th, you guys had your public hearing. In review of that, I don't think there was anything other than possibly a newspaper that stated you guys were having a public hearing. I believe it was Manchester. We have so many avenues in which we can get information out to the public. A separate public notice is what the town does. It sends out via email. There's so much more communication that can be done via your Facebook, but instead you decided to add it to your agenda item and post it that day. There are issues with going directly against not doing that 7-day notification ahead of time, but also Mr. Langlois confirmed that the DCS board did not instruct the project engineer, Steve Peach, to include the Deerfield Conservation Committee or the planning board in development of the plan. These types of things stipulated in the warrant article are there for a reason. And going directly against them or cutting corners or doing whatever we need to do just to get things done isn't the way to operate. So you put us in quite a situation because it did go directly against the warrant, but I more specifically want to talk about not getting public feedback or not getting the information out to the public when we have all of these avenues to do so. That's it.
Thank you.
Greg Whitmore, North Road. So concerned about Article 6, or the proposed Article 6, I guess. Shall the Deerfield School Board District approve tuition agreements between the Deerfield School District and Concord and Pembroke School Districts, as well as Co-Brown, North Academy, as negotiated by the school board? And I mean, you wrote it, you know what the rest of it says. So I'm concerned about the legal ramifications of this warrant if it gets passed versus it doesn't get passed. And I'd rather not wait until deliberative to find out when we can actually have that discussion. Because it really doesn't give us a ton of time after that to, kind of decide which way we're going to vote one way or the other. So I was definitely here in the meeting where the 3-year contracts were approved, unless approved versus voted means something different in the eyes of the school board. I don't know, but it seems like we were locked in for 3 years with all 3 of the schools, with the option to extend either 1 or 2 years depending on the school. But the way this warrant article reads is almost more like another public opinion poll. I mean, and is that the case or not? So we're in with the schools for 3 years, regardless of this passes or not. That's how I'm reading it. But if this does not pass, is this a sort of thing where you would say, well, then if the town voted it down at the end of the 3 year period, we'll go back in and reconsider? Does that sound about right? Maybe, yeah, okay. But if that's the case, then it's really just a poll, right?
So we will address this,
Okay.
when we talk about warrant articles later.
And I don't know if this has been addressed. I haven't been here a couple meetings, but there was a letter sent out to parents for when they were going to lock in for the 8th graders what school they were going to go to, and it said that you're locked in. You know, you can't change schools, which really kind of flies in the face of the school choice option in general. Now, I would think that it would be a very extraordinarily rare circumstance that a student would be changing schools in the middle of their high school career. But if that circumstance comes up, I think they should be able to, and I don't know if we can lock students into a school like that. I kind of like to see the legality of that, and I don't know if that has been discussed more and I missed it, or if it's going to be discussed, but it's certainly something that should come up, I think.
We also are talking about that.
Okay.
No, in letter D.
Perfect, see, it was a premonition I had. Would anybody like to make a motion to accept my comment? No? Next time.
They didn't even. You saw 13 seconds.
No, I know what's coming.
I'm not speaking, I just wanna.
Other public comments?
Got a small one. Kimberly Black, Meeting House Hill. My only comment is about the stop sign at the edge of the entrance coming down out back, and then the semicircle coming around, and then the traffic returning up. So like during drop off and stuff, it's not a problem because traffic is doing what it's supposed to be doing. But on the off hours of stuff, the traffic coming this way and the traffic coming out of the circle, neither has a stop sign, but that stop sign does. So it implies that the incoming traffic would also have a stop sign coming through. So the circle would have the right of way. Anyway, it's confusing. I don't know if there's just a stop sign missing, if engineers never looked at it, if it didn't matter until we decided to actually do a loop around the school, but it would be nice to just get direction and information solidified there for like pulling out of this for like basketball stuff and that kind of stuff. It really matters, not during school drop off. So yeah, the stop signs. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Harold Rhodes, Church Street. I'm here in simply my capacity as the Dooryard Gazette. We are going to be publishing before the election. Deadline, if you want to put anything in for celebrating students or achievements or anything you have to celebrate, to be in by before Valentine's Day. There's no significance in that. And I would welcome any input. We will be publishing candidate statements if they're received before the 12th. Whoever is running candidate statements in the Gazette will print it. It'll also be available on the website, given that the forum is no longer doing this. So we'll make that available. And we'd like to make it as open as possible for folks to understand who's running for what and so forth. So hope to hear from you.
Great. Thank you.
Lynn McNair, Perry, 14 Range Road. My comment is that seeing Harold speak and knowing that he's acting, whatever. Interim for the planning board. He's on so many roles with it, but planning board. At the next planning board meeting, they plan on talking about a couple of things that are somewhat school related in my mind. One of them is they're going to be actually talking about housing. But they also said that they were going to be talking about school enrollments. they're doing some sort of a survey and a study, and it's a grant that's been given. I just thought it might be appropriate for somebody for the school to hear what's being said, because you might have a different perspective than the people that are doing the study, or maybe you'll be running along with them. The other part of that is that, there's about to be a, relatively large for our town subdivision that's likely to be approved. And one of the things that came up at a couple of meetings ago was with a large subdivision, there needs to be a phasing plan. So that depending on the size, you can only get a certain percentage of lots each year. And one of the questions that come up, well, what happens if I skip 1 year and then I just build X number of lots the next year? So then my obvious follow-on question was, what happens if you wait all 5 years and you build all 18 houses at the same time? What does that do to the school? They sent it off to lawyers. We're gonna get that answer at the next planning board meeting, because they were told to put this note that you have this phasing requirement within our zoning laws. And I did point out that the school is probably the biggest and most impacted of all our infrastructure in town. We have 18 houses possibly built all at one time in one subdivision that doesn't include all of them. So I just wanted to suggest that maybe you guys might want to send somebody, or at the very minimum, listen to the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to agenda review. Patty, you had 2 additional items like that, right?
Yes, we need to add school calendar, and that got missed for next year. And, next steps for the fire panel.
We'll have those as I and J. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add?
So I'm gonna have a discussion about where we will be.
Sure. We'll have that as K, location of the board meetings. Okay, so we will start with K, fiscal year 24 update.
You're holding pretty much in the same place that you have been. Right now, there, the deficit is 367.
Okay, anyone have anything to add to that? Okay. We'll move on to B, updated bus routes.
So at the last meeting, we only had the white routes in, and I wanted to be sure that you had seen the other routes. The other routes came out and then white got revised, and we accidentally only put the white in the drive, and I wanted to make sure that you had seen all the routes already and that you weren't just thinking white was revised. I'm assuming that they were all redone, but if you felt like you needed to revote on those, if you misunderstood, then I wanted to give you that opportunity, but people are nodding their heads if they'd seen all the routes that were revised.
I haven't, does anyone feel like they need to review it? Do you want us to vote on it again?
You don't need to, I just want to make sure for transparency, the only one that got into your drive was white.
I assume they've all been going smoothly.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Okay, warrant articles. We voted on recommendations already for most of these, but we will need to vote on number 1 because the MBC did change our operating budget amount. That we want to talk about.
And I have a couple other things too,
Okay.
but that first.
So the MBC added around $74,000 to the operating budget that we submitted to them to add a 3rd high school bus. So the total you'll see in the warrant article is updated here.
Is there a question mark because we're gonna vote on it again?
We need to vote on recommendations. Yes. We didn't do that last week because we knew the NBC hadn't finalized their budget before last meeting.
So the increase was for an additional bus, was there change? Or
Yeah, I think that was the only change.
Yeah. adding high school bus.
And
Yeah,
that was intended for high school.
yeah, right.
With the understanding that not all the buses are working right now at DCS, and they would definitely go more to DCS first.
Yeah, I guess I'm just,
And if we don't have a bus driver, we don't have a bus driver.
no, I mean, we're already swallowing a pretty massive increase with all the other stuff, special education costs, high school stuff, you know. It's just another $70,000 of, you know, budget. I certainly don't think we can invest. If we have any intentions of putting the high school bus on, but we're pretty concerned about that for next year. So budgeting for something that we were pretty clear that wasn't going to be there, it was just inflating the already budget that took a pretty substantial hit for next year.
Yeah, and I shared all of those comments at the MBC meeting. And they felt that they wanted to still include the bus. So we will need to decide if we recommend the MBC's budget number. You can obviously vote no, that you don't recommend it, if you don't agree with it.
Well, in an effort to move forward, I think we're going to move to approve Article 1.
Okay, I will second. Any other discussion? I personally don't agree that we need to add the third high school bus, the cost of the third high school bus. But I still do think that the operating budget addresses a lot of things that we need, that we would like to see in a default budget going forward. So it adds in things that we thought were really important. So even if it is slightly higher than what we had tried to accomplish, it's my opinion that the operating budget is still fits the needs and fits the needs of the school better. I agree. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of recommending approval? Aye. Of the MBC's budget. Of
Before Article 1.
warrant article 1.
It was voted on. Yes.
Was that 4-0? So that's
No.
3
Three.
ayes.
3-0, 3-1.
All opposed? One. Here. What else?
I received some edits from our attorney on the warrants, and I just wanted to, can I just go over those quickly? And then if the board is okay with it, I'd also like to send it to Terry so that when you have the meeting, he can just distribute it or give it ahead of time so that we can see what changes. Okay, since we already voted on the public hearing. So under Article 2, you will notice that we didn't have the words fiscal year and estimated increase. So those were added. There was nothing substantive. Number 5 and number 4, we needed to fix, we had up to in the wrong place. So you can do up to $150,000 if it's coming from surplus, but if you're raising it from taxation, you get rid of the word up to. Okay, so that was, we fixed that. On number 7 for high school tuition, we had to insert a name of the fund, so we high school tuition trust fund. If that's okay with you, I didn't know what to call it. And then we had to fix the citation. We had copied the one that Barrington had and just sent that off to Dean, thinking it would save some time. But the citation was wrong, so I forget what it was. It was like 190. It wasn't one. It was like 35 something. So we fixed it to RSA 198.20 because that's the RSA that should have been cited for the trust fund. And then again, I got rid of the up to because you're raising the money. And then it used to say to designate the school board, and he said to name the school board, and even to expend from this fund, so from was added. Okay, so very minor. And then on article number 10, there we also took this from language that had gone before another board, and Dean struck the last sentence. He added majority vote required, and he struck, it said, such fund balance retained can only be used to reduce the tax rate for emergency expenditures and over expenditures under RSA 3211. That was probably extra language, and we never likes to have extra language in there, so we struck that. So just edits that, I want to share with the NBC, just in case they notice the language is a little bit different. I want them to think through any changes and keep them
Do we need to vote on them
updated.
as they're being edited?
No, it's just, there's no substantive
They're saying
changes.
the same thing.
Yes,
Right, just making
exactly. No intent has changed and no dollar figure. So I will make those changes and then sign tonight so that we can get them posted and we'll send those. Is that okay if I send it to Terry? And then the last thing that I'll mention was the warrant articles. We do need to have a public hearing on the article to rescind SB2. We had one last year. We coupled it with another public hearing to withdraw funds from a trust, I think. We had two that night. So we're gonna do that. It has to be within 15 to 30 days of the vote, so of the March vote. So we're gonna do it February 21st. I think, start the meeting. So you could hear from the public hearing to hear from the public about how they feel about rescinding SB2. And I know you put it on there because the county did, but we still have to have a public hearing. Fine. So with the date that you put February 22nd, 21st. We already have a, yeah, we'll do it at the beginning of your board. Right. Yeah.
I know question came up during public comments about number 6.
Yeah, talk about what I.
Yeah.
I had the conversation, with the attorney that helped us with negotiations, and I explained our intent was, to have it on the warrant article so that unless you have the, body vote to approve, you can't have the Department of Education vote to recognize these as our free schools. So that's why we put it on the warrant article. And I explained to him, we wanted to make sure it was worded in such a way that we entered into agreements. So a vote no on this does not mean those agreements are null and void. We are doing the agreements whether or not this passes. But passing this allows us to have these 3 schools designated as our schools. Whatever the correct term is. That's how that was crafted by our attorney.
I believe, if they are approved by the school board and approved by the Department of Ed, then they would be considered schools maintained by our district.
And if not, we still have the contracts.
We do.
We're still go
We
to
do.
their schools.
So it would be, they would become schools that are maintained by us if it's approved.
Which is what you
Yeah. I will say, to Greg's point, that if the town votes no and they're not schools maintained by the district, I do think the board would look at that when the contracts are up in 3 years. So just something to consider. But I do think there's benefit to having them schools maintained by the district.
We'd probably end up putting another warrant article again, March before the contract and.
Oh, I imagine we would.
If they, the town wants to do that, and then if they don't, then we have to.
I would recommend 2 years.
Yeah. I
Go
can't count that.
Actually, need to start it next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hopefully next year, we're not in the same time crunch again. So hopefully that answers the question on number 6. I also, we will need to have notes for the warrant articles, the ones that we decide to have notes for the voter guide. Nate sent me the ones that the board used last year, which was very helpful. I'm gonna take a rough first pass at them, but I am planning to put them in the drive for the board to review for the next meeting. So they'll be mostly ready to go for deliberative. I think they get sent out. We've sent them to the town right after deliberative.
Right, please reach out if you want to help us.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Okay. Anything else for warrant articles? Okay, we'll move on to B, assignment of high school students policy. Danielle, do you just want to share sort of your thoughts about the policy or what we do? I don't know if you sort of pioneered this, but the thoughts behind.
So
So Ellen did a lot of work with researching schools in the area that have school choice for high schools and kind of what forms they have to kind of help just understand what happens when the kids are in those schools and how they stay there and stuff. So I just kind of took a few of those and combined them into one that would fit us well. Just the idea that if a child wants to be reassigned, we are asking them that they try to stay in their assigned school for the year.
That year. Yeah, it's not for all 4 years. It's
Right,
for the
for the school year. And then, of course, there's still the manifest educational hardship. If there is something mid-year that is, that they absolutely need to change, we still have the manifest hardship. So.
Is there, I don't remember in the contracts, is there like sort of a drop dead date, like, where we have to, so the issue with letting people transfer, sort of like trying the school and transferring 2 months later is like, we may have already paid the full tuition for the year for that student, and we're paying double
Or
tuition.
significant portion.
Right,
Yes,
right.
it may be saying
Makes
no.
life
That's
easier.
that's why we're asking it to be a year.
So, but I think we would need to sort of identify what it means. I wrote it down. So it says, once a student is enrolled in any high school, I think we need to define what enrollment is. Like, is that when you select the school the year before? Is that,
I suppose you could go with the date when we have to make the first payment.
right, so I didn't know if it was like July 1 was like the drop dead date.
Or I was gonna say,
You need to reconcile to the earliest date listed in one of the
I was
Yeah.
gonna say we have to look at the
contracts. So
contract.
you look at the contract, you
Oh, grounds
reconcile,
the earliest.
Yeah.
reconcile it to the earliest date, and it's really not the date, it's the date, not when payments are made, but we have to notify them about it.
Right.
So that would be your earliest date, and then you build everything for that.
Yeah, but I think it would be helpful if we sort of define that slightly more. I have a lot of just like verbiage things. I also thought we should add language from RSA 91.3:3, section 6, which talks about approved tuition agreements. And it says that either the school can assign students or each child's parents may choose a school among the schools selected by the board. So I think we clarify that pursuant to RSA 193.3, each child's parent may choose a school among the 3 schools approved by our board. But I can sort of send you this sort of anyway. I also think this is sort of just structural, but I think like a title should go after this first paragraph. Because it really speaks to the second paragraph and not the first one. Anyway, there's some changes I'll make, but I think it's a good idea to set this out in writing. What
Right,
do
and the
others think?
intent is to not pay for tuition for one student twice,
Correct.
just so it's clear to them.
And also that the office, it's also setting it clear that these are the 3 schools that
That
we
you
have,
can
that we have contracts with, that you can select with. You can't pick some other school that's outside of here.
Right, like you can go to another school, but you have to pay for
These are the ones we'll take for.
it. Yeah, which is after, that's subsection A, which will probably be B, but yes. And I added some language to paragraph C, just to clarify that.
I think it's also senior year or 21. too. I think you have to-
22. I thought it was 22 also, yeah.
It's changed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then I was gonna add language that like, even if the current contracts are not extended,
So they can
they can continue at those schools.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and it's for 4 years.
Right. Because it's confusing.
Yeah, it's.
I know, I mean, that's all in our contract.
Yeah,
The schools
of course.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like if we're giving people sort of a guideline, I think that would
Yeah.
be helpful.
I think that's good, because you wouldn't want your kid pulled out after 2 years, because there's a change.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else?
no, when you are ready, I will send it to Dean for review.
Okay.
See if he has some input.
I will, yeah, I will put in my edits, which obviously people can feel free to change. Cool. All right. We are going to move on to E, preschool.
Mrs. McCall is here. Good evening. I'm delighted to talk to you about preschool. It is one of my favorite places to spend time during the day. I did prepare just a brief written summary for you to have in front of you as I talk about the preschool program, but I'm happy to answer questions you may have. Really, my goal of this evening is just to give you some basic information about our preschool program. We currently run 4 classes throughout the week. We have 2 classes of 3 and 4-year-olds. They meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's a morning class, afternoon class, and then 3 classes of primarily 4 and 5-year-olds, and they come 3 days a week, either in the morning or the afternoon. So right now, our total enrollment in preschool is 36 students. Our program model is an integrated preschool model. So that includes students who are receiving special education services as well as what we would call typically developing peers. And we utilize that model because it is the most effective, least restrictive, and inclusive model for all kiddos. And everybody gets a very rich preschool experience. And so we have to maintain a 50% ratio of typically developing students and students who may have special education needs. So when you look at the current enrollment on the second page of on the back of the handout, you'll see those are current numbers, and in parentheses is sort of the breakdown of typical peers and students then requiring special education support.
Would the special education be the first number?
The first number is the typical developing student the second. Those that may require
Special or receiving,
or receiving
some kind of
support
services.
of some sort with special education. Just so that you're aware of how these students come to our attention, I would say the majority of our students come to our attention through already receiving services through early supports and services. That program serves students with identified developmental needs ages birth through 3 years, and then they become the school's legal responsibility to pick up those services at 3 years. So, we may learn of a student at age 2.5, and our responsibility is to make sure that we are aware of them, they are heard, evaluated, determined eligible, and we have to have a program in place for them by their 3rd birthday. So many of our students are referred through already existing support structures that are in place, but we also get referrals from parents, pediatricians. We do run child find screenings at least twice a year throughout the whole SAU, and that is intended to find any students of concern in the community that may benefit from early supports. So that's sort of how they come to us. We do charge a slight tuition to our typical peers. Our students who are receiving services can come to our program at no cost. But we do charge just a nominal fee for those students that come to participate. So those numbers are listed there. For our 2-day program, it's $65 a month. For our 3-day program is $85 a month. We have 4 staff who are amazing that support our preschool program. We have 2 full-time teachers in the program. They are dual certified in early childhood education and early childhood special education. So one is generally taking the lead as the classroom teacher, while the other might be providing specialized special education academic supports. And we have a classroom aide just because there's things that little kids need help with. And then we also have a special education paraeducator that supports that program. They are a veteran team of educators. Mrs. Fortier has been a preschool teacher with us for 14 years. Mrs. Bradley has been a special ed educator in our preschool program for 14 years. Ms. Gianelli did her student teaching with us and all of her internships through her UNH program, even through her master's level program. And we were fortunate enough to hire her. She's in her 3rd year of teaching. And Ms. Andrukovich has been with us in the district for 10 years. So just a really solid staff of amazing
early childhood educators. They wanted me to say that you're all welcome at any time. If you need your bucket filled, please come, and they're always open to visitors. It's just a fun, busy place to be. It's a really nice balanced program of academics and play, really with the goal of helping students achieve school readiness. Many of our families like having a school-based preschool option because they have older siblings in the building, and it helps them get acclimated before they begin their full-day kindergarten experience. There's just a lot that they learn and do in the preschool program that translates to success. We do monitor their outcomes through the curriculum. The teaching strategies goal is the curriculum that we use and the assessment tool we use, and we report that information not only to the parents of all of our students, but we are required to provide that information to the state as well. So we are monitored for compliance and successful outcomes with our students in our preschool program. So that's something that's important, and we do quite well. Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So the speech and the OTs and the PTs, they're within the school, or those outside people that come in?
So we are very fortunate. Our speech pathologist that works in the preschool program is a district employee. Our occupational therapist is a district employee. We do contract services for our physical therapist.
Have you ever done a study to see how much money you save by having them come here in one place rather than having the services having to go out? I know that's one of the reasons why we started it, because we had to
Right, and I
send
would
people out, it would cost.
I would say not recently. I would say when the program was initiated, that comparative financial study was part of the initiation that led to this program, just so that people understand, because we are legally obligated to provide these services, regardless of whether we had a program here, we would be responsible for meeting those students' needs. And that could be through itinerant services that we have the children come and just get their services and then go home. That's one possibility. Another possibility is sort of where we would meet the children where they are. So if they're at such and such childcare over in Epsom, we might have to send someone over to that childcare or preschool program and offer our services there. So that cost analysis was done, Ellen, at the initiation of this program, but I don't think it's been repeated.
Okay. I was just curious, 'cause, well, I guess I remember being that we made money for sure through the program, right?
Well, safe.
Safe.
Yeah, I think that's
kind of what I do.
So the number that we can get easily, the other more restricted setting is some students need to be in a specialized program, and that we were busing them to the Pembroke program, because
Right.
that's the SAU program.
Right.
And the tuition for that is, I don't remember how much it is now, but it's probably $15,000 per kid.
Yeah.
And they are on a bus for half an hour
Right.
each way. And
Yeah, we might be paying for their preschool and the services
Right.
at that preschool and sending personnel to deliver those services. So at the time, and I would say there are other benefits too, if having it obviously in our building.
Oh, sure, they get to know the school and then, get to know some of the old kids and.
I'm not sure if you were gonna ask about the tuition or not, but
Yeah,
I
well, I
wanted
was,
to mention that.
I was wondering about that,
Yeah,
because I mean, that's very, very low compared to what people normally pay for.
So we, and just to give you an idea, we stopped charging tuition in Pembroke, period, because you have to have 50% typical peers in the program to meet the requirement of the Department of Education, because they say unless you have 50%, it's a more restrictive, it's really a special ed program, and that's higher up on the least restrictive scale. And it's not easy for all parents. You would think that it would be easy, and you'd think, oh, we're giving free childcare, or we're giving a free preschool program, but
We'll probably
they have
it's
to get
only
their,
3
right,
days
it's
a week or
only
2
a couple of
days
days
a
a
week.
week for
Okay.
like 2.5 hours. So
Right.
it's actually
Yeah.
more difficult for them to take advantage of that. It's not that we're providing 6 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Right.
So we do charge a nominal fee to offset, but we try to keep it in a range that it's attractive
It's
to
very
parents, and they say, I can have my kiddo be in the school, in the preschool program a couple of days a week for a couple of hours.
Plus you probably need like a parent who's home.
Right,
And
it's
then
not,
they're not gonna be
yes.
making as much money,
Yes.
so, yeah.
So I think that people see that figure and they kind of misunderstand what it's for and what it,
Yeah.
it's not to pay for.
Well, I heard that come up and that's kind of why I
Yeah.
wanted to get this straight. I want to have a better feel for
Yeah.
what's going on in the school.
Yeah, and I think it is important to prepare kids for kindergarten, and I wouldn't want cost to be a burden for people who want their kids to get ready for kindergarten so that they can succeed, even if they're,
But I also wanted to bring out in public so people know that we are saving money by having them here, having them come in a place, use staff that's already here.
Other argument we've heard is flip side of that is that we can't offer to nothing for kids. We hear what it is.
Oh, do we have like a
We have a
waiting
waiting
list?
list.
Generally speaking, we do maintain a waiting list. I think it is getting more challenging to find families that can just come to a 2-day-a-week for 2.5 hours program. We have some families that, then they go off and they go to a community preschool, or on the days they're not here, they might have a flexible schedule, but 2 days a week they can make it work. But then those other 3 days, they're at work full time, so their child has to go somewhere else for childcare or preschool. So, we have all different needs, but I think that the tuition does make it accessible to many families, and it's a fun place. Pizza shop is opening next week. Just switched from the doctor's office, and I hear that the pizza shop is opening. So
I was Captain Hook on the way home today.
they do a lovely job.
Revolution.
Arrgh. You want the plate, matey.
I have a bunch of good pirates.
They're too young. Any other questions? Thank you very much for doing this
No, of
again. I
course,
really
yeah.
appreciate it.
And I'm happy to answer questions at any time. So if there's any questions from the board later, please let me know.
great. Thank you so much. Okay, we will move on to class size.
So we have reached out to the past several years of enrollment in Career Drive for the review. So we did that a week or two ago. So we have that historical data we requested. And specific questions or we wanted to.
Is this the conversation?
Yeah.
I think, I think one of the big things I have is if you look at historically how many are in classes. And I have to apologize to you because I did not get this because I am locked out of the SAU stuff and I'm.
Because you didn't-
administrator. Well, they didn't send me the email
Oh,
and then they
right.
sent me an email and I thought I did it, but it must not work, so I'm locked out.
For the
two
two-factor
Yeah.
authentication.
So I didn't get a chance to call today, but I'll call tomorrow. But I guess one of the big things that kind of got me was when I looked at the projected class size of kindergarten for next year at like 13, 12, 13, 13. I mean, to me, that just seems kind of crazy because if you add them up together and you have one class, I think it's 15.
We haven't projected next year.
Yes, it's projected for next year. And I know that, I mean.
No, that's first grade.
I'm sorry. It is
So that doesn't.
223. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. So what was the kindergarten this year? It was,
40 students this year. Wow, we've had 3, actually since Christmas, we've had 3 additional kindergartners, so 43.
so 43 in 4 classes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that would be, about 10 or 11 kids. And if you look at the recommended, which I don't see here.
Yeah, it's all the way to the
On the far
right.
The one I'm looking at doesn't have it.
14, 20, 25.
14, 20, okay, I'm looking, I see it's down towards lower.
Yeah.
So 14, which I think if you added them all together, you said what, 40, 42, 43?
43.
Right, so if you divide that into 3 classes, and that's, I'm still going to be doing it. It's 11. 13, 4, that's 14. So it'd be about 14, which is what the school board recommends and still way below what the state guidance. Obviously, I don't want to go anywhere near the state maximum because I do agree small class sizes are good. But I also think if you have too small a class size, that's not beneficial either. So I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know that we have one staff person who's leaving. And so I guess I'd like to just look at, is it possible that we can reduce a staff member? We have somebody leaving. We don't have to get rid of a teacher. So, because when I'm looking at these numbers, I think these are really, really low class sizes.
I guess what I'll say is that if you're looking at historically over the years, we've had 62, 58, 54, 53, 61. Like those numbers have been pretty consistent over the years. And occasionally you do get an anomaly of a class, one way or another. Here we have an anomaly of a class. We're at about 40, between 40 and 43 kids. I don't know how many kids we'll have before the end of the year. And that was very unusual. We were very surprised that the numbers only came at 40. I don't know how many families are out there waiting for us to have a first grade because kindergarten is not required in the state of New Hampshire. So, we might have kids in daycare centers or childcare centers that might be waiting in the wings. They needed full daycare. I don't know. I don't have those numbers. So I feel like this, if we had 2, 3, 4 years of 40, then we could take a look at these numbers again. But this is not a typical size class for Deerfield.
But I also think that if you don't replace the teacher now, you can always add another teacher. So if we get a bunch of kids that come in, you can. Also, if you end up with this bubble, this first grade class that ends up moving up, well, you typically have 3 teachers for each grade level. But I'm just saying, how to move teachers around, it's just one of the things we used to do all the time.
Well, you can, but to go from a kindergarten to a 4th grade is a bit of a jump for a teacher. I think when you say you can just add another teacher back in, that is not very easy to do. Adding a teacher back into a roster is not easy if you let go of a teacher or you don't replace a teacher. It's very challenging to get a teacher back onto the roster. I've found in my years here.
So I mean, in the primary grades, ignoring kindergarten, because kindergarten is always a wild card up until we get our registrations. And
Right.
in a lot of cases, we see kindergarten rolling throughout the course of the summer. We're running 3 classes per grade level. So, anything once we start straying north of 40 students in grade level is going to put us at, 20 plus students in the class. 20 students a classroom, in my opinion, I'm not an educator. I know a little bit, it's a lot. Is it doable?
I think it's very doable personally.
Is it doable? Yes, but is that the standard we want to start setting?
One of the
Because
things, I'm sorry.
the classes that hit 50, now you're at 25 kids per classroom, and that can start to become unmanageable. Right? And so, we don't have 40 student classes, except for this one among 50 plus in every grade level. Both 53, 40, 53, 52 for the primary grades. So if we cut a staff member in any of those grades, we're 25, 26, 24 students a class. A lot. And smaller classrooms that aren't as large as they would be in a newer setting. I mean, it's a
Well, you're jumping from 40 to 50. 10 kids every 10 kids. So I don't think that's going to be the case. And 20 students really isn't that difficult. But there's another issue to bring about, and that's the para and parent contract. And I know, like, the budget committee said, kind of against the para contract. Well, I don't think you can have it 2 ways. If you are going to reduce teachers, you have to pay your paras more because you want good paras in the classroom to help teachers. I think that's good support in the classroom. So you can't do both. You can't, not pay your paras and have larger classrooms. So, but that is an option to have paras in the classroom. And if we pay paras, that's also.
But the paras are needs driven based on the needs of it. I mean, the paras aren't for a classroom. It's not.
Sometimes they are for a classroom. Sometimes they're regular ed. And sometimes
We have 4 regular ed.
So sometimes they are.
But those are.
You also have
Kindergarten and preschool.
special ed paras that can be shared, and they will help other kids in the classroom. They have like their ones that they have to watch, but they can also.
But their focus is their specific needs and the IEPs of those specific students. So
I know, but they're still there to help. Zach. I mean, and they do help. I've worked with parents a lot in my life, and I've had them work with a lot of students who are regular ed students that they supported very, very well in the classroom, along with whoever the kids were that they had to support. But I'm just saying, when I start to see class sizes of 11, 9, it really bothers me. I just think that that's way too small. And as a teacher, I also know smaller class sizes is not necessarily beneficial because it's hard to group kids. There's only so many ways you can group kids. So if you have kids that don't get along very well, you can't even mix them up. It's really difficult to do. I know it's when I was a teacher in middle school, I hated anything that was less than 16.
I think there's a vast difference between
Absolutely.
low numbers at the middle school versus low
I
numbers
agree.
in primary. And when there are a couple of arguments that we actually did consider having not marking it down to 3 kindergarten teachers when the numbers were pretty final. However, there's a lot of research out there that shows that these kids that are coming up who have been through COVID and there's a lot of missed schooling. Kids would have to stay home for upwards of 10, 20 days. We didn't know what we were getting. And we're finding that this kindergarten class that we have in 4 different classes, we're already thinking about how are we going to combine some of these personalities into 3 classes. Even though they'll be small, they are mighty and they bring lots of supports that are needed for the group. And I don't know what the next group is going to bring, but I suspect that we'll be wanting to have small class sizes for a couple of years until we can get a handle on a lot of speech and language. I mean, these kids were talking with people behind masks. They didn't see lips. They didn't see facial expressions. There was a lot of that going on, and that had a great impact on some of their development. So we decided to stay with the 4 kindergartens for that reason, to keep the numbers low, to give a lot of support that was needed. And they've come a long way in the half a year that we've had them so far, and I look forward to their growth in the future. I don't think we're going to see a 40 class again for a while. I do think that our preschool, we're sending 20 up from our preschool. And we usually have additional students. I don't know how many are we usually know how many are at the preschool. Do you know?
Yeah.
My daughter's classmates, about 10 of them are coming.
All right, there you go. See, I mean, there it is, right? But the other thing too is that I do know that in our current preschool program, we do have over 40% of our students are on IEPs right now, and those students will be going into kindergarten next year on those IEPs, needing that kind of support. And small class size in a kindergarten and first grade makes a world of difference.
Yeah, sure. And it could be a delayed development. which
Absolutely.
They take care of it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that makes sense, but I guess I just want to keep in mind if a staff is leaving to really think about, do we really need to replace that staff? I think that's the key thing that is on my mind, because I don't want to get rid of teachers. I do not want to rid of teachers. I don't want to do that at all. But if there's an opportunity where we think, hey, maybe we can get by with one less teacher and we have somebody leaving, I just want to at least make sure that we're really looking at the numbers and considering it. I think that's the big thing.
You start seeing multiple years where you've got groups of 40 going through, entirely different
Right.
story,
Yeah.
or 38, 39. But when you start pushing that 44, 45, 46.
Yeah, plus we've got all the developments in town.
There's
Right.
more coming. I mean, there's another 18, and I'm sure, like every town, as you've grown outside of Manchester, has
Yeah.
developed itself out, we're next on the list. And we're going to start to see more and more development for next.
Yeah, I mean, your numbers are high enough when I look at all the other grades, second, third, fourth, fifth.
Mhm.
Middle school, they're definitely high enough, but I think your class sizes look good.
And I will say, sorry, I'm not sorry.
No, no, that's-
That there have been a couple of years, like last year, our kindergarten, they had to combine classes and made the class sizes much bigger. That's been mentioned a few times. That was not ideal. Those students,
that was because of maternity leave, right?
right? We can't find long-term subs. We have another situation coming up in second grade. There's not anybody out there looking for a long-term sub position. And so in first grade, we had to collapse a class, but it was for a short time and those teachers knew it. And they're having 25 kids in first grade.
Oh, I agree.
100, right.
With you on that.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And you think about, you even go, let's go to report cards, 25 report cards versus 19 or 18 report card. You know, and it's a lot. Everything is a lot more when it's 25. And when the
25 progress reports, what we do last night.
No, it's just, I totally agree with you.
Mhm.
That's that's difficult to manage. I agree. But it's a big difference from 25 to 11. So that
No,
was
agreed,
just-
100% agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something, that the board should make a concerted effort to look at every year. And obviously like look at trends because. If we do start seeing a trend of classes of 40, then yes, I think we should certainly reevaluate.
That's a different story, but if you're in the upper forties, it's, you know, you're either a class of 25 or a class of 16 and 30.
You know, it looks like most of your projected class sizes around, once you get past first grade, it's 17, 18. We've got what, third grade, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, 17. I mean, those are all good sized classes.
Mhm. And sometimes,
Appropriate.
and we have adjusted. There was a few years ago, I know I was looking through the notes that we did have a particularly large kindergarten class that had a lot of challenges in it. And we moved a kindergarten teacher to a first grade. And then there were 4 second grades, and then there were 4 third grades. And by then they were ready to go down to 3 class sizes, so 3 classes. So there's 3 fourth grades and 3 fifth grades. But we did, you know, we adjusted to meet the needs of the students, and we had the ability to do that. So.
And I think it's advantageous for teachers sometimes to move between levels because then they know what the different expectations are for the grade above them or the grade below them. You know what I mean? I know not all teachers want to do that. They don't choose to do that.
Very few do, Ellen.
I mean, I'm a real proponent of looping. I think looping
I
is
love it too.
wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Right, I'm good. Thanks. Questions been answered.
Okay. G, culture science survey. Yes, so that is something that we decided, Zach and I decided to work on SAU-wide. So Kendra asked us for us to give you an update. We're doing, there's a lot of research and questions that exist out there and other surveys, so we're trying not to reinvent the wheel. So we've been looking at like national surveys and stealing questions that we think would meet our needs here. So our target to have that out, I have to write down the date. I think it was right after February vacation.
And can you just sort of explain like what?
Oh, sorry, yes,
Being
sure.
surveys.
So we've had a couple of different boards who have talked about, for board goals, wanting to do some type of a culture climate survey. And there were a couple of board members that went to one of the school board association trainings, and other boards were talking about that. And they thought, you know, we haven't, and Jack came on board and said, okay, where are we at in this SAU? And I said, you know, there's enough people that are asking for this that we should just do it SAU-wide instead of 1 or 2 districts at a time. Let's just do the whole shebang. So we were going to survey staff, students. You have to get permission for students because it's a non-academic survey. And then staff, everybody, community, whoever wants to take it, and they'll identify the category that they're representing when they take the survey. Just as a place for us to sort of, we have several new members of our SAU leadership team, and we want to sort of start focusing our work. So I think that would be beneficial to just do it for the SAU.
That's a great idea, and that's something that we might use to maybe
Right, each
have
one,
like
we'll
a,
break it down by district.
right, and we might be able to use that if we could do like community workshops with staff, everybody get together, like, okay, this is what we found out, what can we do? Yeah.
And we have a new curriculum director, so if there are concerns SAU-wide with 4th grade, you know, she can target and provide some support to staff and say, you know, anything, any needs that are identified.
So will we see the survey questions and stuff?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So we've already got a bunch of samples. It has to be manageable. And if you can imagine 5 people sitting around the table trying to decide which questions are important and complete switch questions. So that's our target. Yes.
We've been talking over the last couple of years about a new rollout of a new sort of evaluation tool, multi-level.
Yep.
And I don't think it's the same as this. It sounds like different, but
It is.
do they intersect at all, or is that where is that?
It's Thoughtful Classroom is completely separate. That's just an evaluative tool. So it's the Houston administration uses it for
staff, and then we're also using it at the administrative level too. There's a principal effectiveness, I forget what it's called.
Framework.
That's it. So we're using it at that level too, and then Jack and I are trying to model our work with our team too in the same fashion. And then that's just evaluative. This is completely separate. There'll be different categories of satisfaction and culture.
Will, maybe you said this, I missed it. Is the survey going to be anonymous?
Yes.
Okay. I ask only because I work in healthcare and we are big fans of surveys. You'll get a survey every time you come see us.
Yeah.
But we also spend a lot of effort surveying the employees at my company. And I think it's a good system for us to feel like we can bring our concerns somewhere, like, or, say things that we're really happy about or whatever. And I think it's a good venue for us to feel like, okay, if I'm raising an issue, someone will read it. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, we used to do it in my business too. It's really good.
Cool, that sounds great. Look forward to it. Anyone else have questions about the survey? Okay. 8, science grant.
That is Mrs. Woody, I believe. Mrs. Keithley, you have more
Yes.
details for science grant.
So sixth grade, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, they always have, every year there's a big trip. In the past, sixth grade has done an overnight camp. Then when COVID hit, they've pivoted to bringing science camp here to utilize our outdoor classrooms, and it's been great. So seventh grade started going to Mero Vista, which is a science, nature, community building type team building camp.
And sorry to interject.
No.
The reason that seventh grade took it over was because that sixth grade group missed their overnight. So the seventh grade felt obligated to give it to them because, and so then slowly seventh grade kept that, not by, just by
default,
I guess.
Yeah. Be honest.
This year, however, instead of having the science camp come, the sixth grade is going to go to Mero Vista because seventh graders loved it so much. And then seventh grade is also going. I think it's like a week apart.
They're the same week.
Oh, the same week.
Monday,
But-
Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So there's one
sixth grade,
overlap day.
Yes, one overlap day.
It's a little expensive. It's pricey. So sixth grade has been vigorously fundraising. And Mrs. Peasley from sixth grade team, she's a science teacher, wrote a grant to the New Hampshire environmental educators and got $2,000 towards to offset the cost for the Mero Vista trip. So we're asking the board to accept the $2,000, which will directly go to offset the cost of the Mero Vista trip for sixth grade.
So I move to accept the grant, but I have questions.
Mhm.
So my questions are, as we all know, we are in a bit of a crunch financially.
Mhm.
Are they gonna be able to raise enough money to cover with the grant, the cost of the trip to that level?
Yeah, they're doing fundraising on top of that, both grade levels.
And eighth grade, all three grades are doing fundraising for various
And so
reasons.
there will be out-of-pocket costs for families,
Okay,
which is
so I
pretty
guess what I'm
standard.
asking Is this gonna impact the budget or is this gonna impact? There's no, okay.
Nope,
That's
no
all
impact to the budget.
And I guess you could probably use the grant for families that can't pay.
Right, and we do have some scholarship money, like that for families who need it.
PTO in the past has helped. Focus has helped give specific students.
Any other year, I wouldn't be a thing with anybody.
Yeah, I know.
Are we anticipating going forward that it will always be 6th and 7th grade doing it?
No, the idea is seventh grade to back off, and be specifically because New York is such a big trip.
Yeah.
So to give parents kind of that 1 year off,
1 year respite.
1 year, you get 1 year of a break, and then you're back to the grind. So,
It's been
yes,
that's
yes.
what they're looking at.
They're
yeah.
looking like just do like little
Like field
trips.
day.
Yeah, so you get field day and then something maybe like Canopy Lakes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
still have something, a couple fun things for the kids, but it is, and you all know that so few people do this fundraising work, so it's a burden for all three
Same
grades.
Same
Yeah,
parents.
same parents doing a lot of that work, and we greatly appreciate it. But yeah, I think we're moving in the direction of giving a year off so that they can.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to accept the grant. Any other discussion? Who was seconded? Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. School calendar.
Somehow I mixed that on the agenda. I apologize. We're trying to get all wrapped up in January. Our student information system, you may or may not know the state has a new student information, a new system for selecting everything. And they actually moved to Alma, which is what we use, the whole state. So all our state reporting is going through Alma. So we were a pilot district this year, which put an incredible amount of work on our front office staff and our staff at the SAU to help the state work out all the bugs and get all of the reports uploaded into Alma. So all the other districts in the state, it will be mandatory. So it was good. We got the work done. We do have to enter our school calendars really early because of the transition. Brian shared this with the Education Association, that's something that we can collaborate with staff and make sure that there's nothing on here that is alarming to them or that they want to give some recommendations. It's very, very standard. We look at vacation. The state puts out a suggested vacation schedule so that schools try to stick with the same weeks off. We followed that. We looked at Concord, so same school vacations. The only difference sort of between our schools is you guys always take Deerfield Fair. Not everybody does that. We try to, the whole state doesn't take off for the Deerfield Fair. We try.
Seems like it if you're there.
The towns do, but they have professional development that day.
We tried to have an SAU calendar one year, and the little things that each town does, it was like, don't touch my day for this, don't touch my day for that.
Yeah.
Never mind, just do your own. So it's the same as last year. We changed, I think we changed the parent conference day, was a few days different.
Yeah. The April.
The April for parent conferences, but other than that, it's the same as last year's.
So I'll move to approve as presented.
Okay, I will second. Discussion. I know last year we talked, this was like maybe my third meeting or something. No idea what's going on. We talked about the staff's feeling about starting before Memorial Day, Labor Day.
I actually circled those dates on here. We
Right.
can talk about it, but I decided I didn't feel like dying.
I'm bringing it up again.
So
I know some families really feel like we should start after, but I don't know what sort of you guys think. I think some other people really like having the soft launch of like a 2-day week and then Labor Day short week.
I think people are more ready to come back than they are to stay in June. They're so ready
That's
to be
true.
gone in June. And if you delay the start, you delay the end.
And it gets really
Our experience has been June is like, they're ready.
We'd be looking at June 24th if we started after Labor Day.
Yeah, and if there were any weather issues, we can't go
No.
physically beyond July 1st.
you've got 2 education days for the kids. You'd be looking at June 20th. Friday.
Yeah, the staff of them, right?
So the
So you're
staff
asking the
before,
staff.
but that's what I'm saying. If staff started after Labor Day,
Yeah.
that would
Not
tap on.
staff. I think she meant
Yeah.
students. She meant students.
She doesn't care about the staff.
I care about the staff. Don't say that.
I can't believe Kendra doesn't care about staff.
This is being recorded.
That could be a t-shirt.
Preparing her for the next 2 years.
So I am personally agnostic about it. I would defer to you guys as to what you think is a better start to the school year, which I know can be a little bit bumpy, just with people transitioning in and new students coming. So
The beauty with that is that you can say, well, that's what Brian and Kristen want.
I do have to say that kids, when they start school, they are so tired. That to have it where it's like 2 days and then 4 days and 5 days, it is really, it's not just for the teachers, but it's really good for the schools, especially the little ones. They are
I'm
so
personally
exhausted.
I'm personally not ready to get up early enough for kindergarten, so it will be a transition for that.
We're gone are the days of PM kindergarten.
Well,
We sort of drop off whenever the time start time, so we are lazy at the morning.
Yeah.
I think personally, I think the calendar.
Right.
And Labor Day is early this year. That's not always the case, right? That every year it gets a little later, and then next thing you know, we really are going to the 29th. I know, that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
We've never, or not, in the time I've been here anyway, not gone into a school year with half of our rising ninth graders going to a school out of Wisconsin. So,
I would say Co-Brown starts early.
And actually, I mean, we never used to have that Friday. Very beginning, we had 3 days, then we had 4 days, and we had 5 days. We started getting rid of that Friday because of conference.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very true. Having the two different school schedules, but Co-Brown starts
So early.
August, yeah. And they're out really what the end of May.
May 31st. Did you have that date? June 5th, they're out.
I think that's probably, it's in some ways, maybe that's something we need to look at next year to see if it is a real inconvenience, but I don't do anything.
Our calendar does not match concrete.
Right.
They just have their set PD days that we don't want those PD days, and summer trimester,
At the end of the day, I don't know how that
It's-
impacts families
It's
at all.
exactly. Sometimes people would complain, well, my older kiddo sees it's the younger, but you don't hear a lot about that now, really. You don't get a lot of complaints, do you? But
I guess
Yeah.
I do feel like that's another argument for not pushing it past Labor Day. That would just exaggerate.
Yeah.
Good point.
the schools. And I remember the beginning of this year was so hot. So obviously we want to start earlier in August. That would be too hot in this moment. Any other comments, discussions about the calendar? You guys are comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the regular calendar deals to approve it as written. All in favor?
Aye.
J, fire panel contract.
So as requested, I reached out to the state fire marshal to try to get some movement on we're working up with our, sign off on the project. And I received an email that, so I emailed the state on the 19th of December and received a response the 21st of December. And it said, that the state fire marshal reached out to Chief Fisher and he indicated he would be reaching out to you to get this resolved, where we don't have any authority over this project. It ultimately is in the chief's hands. I've offered to him any assistance necessary from my group to facilitate a resolution in a timely manner if he wishes to accept it. I still don't. So that was December 21st. We need to move forward. So I need advice on what you would like us to do. Our vendor needs to take out the rest of the old system. I don't have any local codes that say that our system isn't going to work. As we've talked about before, it's a state-of-the-art system. It's put in several brand new schools in the state. It's far better than what we already have. So the suggestions that we've talked about this many times, but the suggestions that Fisher made were going to cost in excess, I think, of $100,000. Is that my recollection? I think
It was
going to be,
mounting rapidly.
and we don't have.
I was after he had seen the plans.
So
I mean, unfortunately, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So why don't we email the state fire marshal's office again to say we haven't heard from them, and then I don't know if we want to try to invite Mr. Fisher to come to a board meeting and we resolve this at the next meeting, and if Cantor doesn't respond by that point, I don't know what else to do. We're going to just continue with this plan.
Is there anyone else within the town that could just do the same thing? It wouldn't matter if we had the select board, because it's not there, it should. So there's nobody really else that we can talk to.
Okay, I'll invite him to this meeting.
See if you can get a response from the ballot, and I don't know what else to do with it. If he does reply that he's coming, we probably should see if we can get contract.
Okay.
Engineer here.
Should we, in the email, should we indicate what the plan is if he doesn't come? Like, or suggest an alternate date?
I would say, I mean, if you want me to just outline it, we've reached out to him multiple occasions. You know, if you can't resolve it, we're gonna finalize the project.
Right, that's what I was thinking too, put that in there, so if he doesn't show up, that's, I mean, we've done everything we can do.
Right.
I mean, we've installed it as approved by the state, as reviewed by the fire department in Deerfield.
By him, right?
By him.
By
He
him.
had the plans
He
twice. He
changed
had
it the
the
last
engineer drawings and he had the design. drawings. He had two opportunities to. So at this point, you know, and there's no code that can be found, because I have checked, and I've called and talked to, I've checked with things like John and talked to previous fire chief to see if we put codes in place. So there's no codes that have been adopted with the CED. The state.
And there was a public commenter who advised us that a town can't make higher codes than the state fire code.
Well,
I believe.
unless it's approved and codified, they can certainly add,
Yeah, they can make it, but
But
it has to be in it.
it has to be part of the town's codes, and the town of Deerfield has no codes.
You can't have less than.
Right, right.
So, yeah, I guess we take one more good faith effort and we're on.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that.
All right. Okay, location of school board meetings.
I just wanted to bring up, because we've had several people say, you know, why are we having it here? We're always having trouble with the recording. I know that, I've talked to several people that they try to listen to it, it doesn't work, this doesn't work, they can't get in, they get kicked out, they don't hear the sound. It's like over and over again. I've been hearing it since I came on this board. So I just thought that, I mean, I like coming here too, but I feel like we should be listening to the constituents and people. There are a lot of reasons why people can't come to the meetings. And it seems to me that it's, since all the main boards in town are recording their meetings, that we should have a reliable recording of our meeting. So I guess I just want to bring it up there again, possibility about going to the George B. White building. I did look into it, did a little research on it, talked to John Harrington, and then I talked to, what he told me was it's free the second Wednesday, third Wednesday, could be the first and third. The first Wednesday, the recreation board often has meetings there, but I met with Craig and he told me it's easy for them to move and that he actually wouldn't even mind moving because he kind of wrapped in a smaller space and not really big space. So it sounds to me like it would be open. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to us, have the discussion about doing it. And really because I know that this is an ongoing problem that's happening most times when we have meetings. It's not like a once in a while. It's very, very regular that people are having problems and get kicked out and can't be. So.
Yeah, so I know Patty and I have talked about potentially looking at switching to Google Meet or something, so switching the platform, but that doesn't address the sound quality or the recording necessarily. I mean, I already have meetings at GVW, so I honestly feel a little bit neutral. I know how to run the system there.
Right, and John also said that, like, I know that you can run it. He said he'd be more than happy to train anybody else on running the system.
It is like 47 steps, but they are all written out. And so it's a little bit cumbersome, but once you figure it out, it's not that bad.
And if we had meetings where it was really important for us to be here, because maybe we're going on tour, we're doing something, we have a meeting here. I mean, we always have the option of having meetings here. It doesn't have to be every single time.
So I hear that. I also feel like I have to advocate for the school and the staff here because their offices are here in this building. Some of the staff are staying here all day until this meeting continues. I feel like, I don't know, I just don't feel like that's quite fair for some of the school staff to ask them to, you know, pick up what they've been doing all day, drive to another building, and then possibly come back here.
I did ask a few and they said they were fine. I didn't ask everybody, but I did ask a few.
I mean, I've been vocal over the years. I've always thought we should do our business in the house, but I'm down to 3 meetings and 4 meetings, so. Not my circus.
Nate, do you have feelings or thoughts? You're the only one who hasn't spoken about it.
I can roll with it. I agree. I mean, we've talked about this many times over the last few years, but I agree that in the last whatever time that Zach and I have been on the board, the interest in the community has exploded in our meetings. So I guess that's a good thing, but it also means that it means that our system hasn't really been able to keep up with it. I agree that to be able to talk to our employees or people, our community here, to have a place where parents feel comfortable coming in that they're familiar with, I think is invaluable. But
Also invites people inside the building. In a lot of cases, and there's a lot of people that could come here that won't otherwise.
Joe, that's my preference, but I get the communication piece as well.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Who is the historical context for this? Because I know that they at one point were held at the George B. White building and then it was moved.
About 9 years ago,
Mhm.
we're holding meetings there for a short period of time. And back then, we opted to come back here because we felt it didn't feel like we were connected to the school. So that was about 9 years ago.
And there was no recordings going on and there was
I think they probably had that point had a system similar to what we have here.
Okay.
I mean, a lot.
Yeah, they were recorded.
They were recorded.
they
but-
recorded to upload to YouTube, but it wasn't a live webinar or, I mean, not
Yeah,
webinar.
correct. I mean, the technology has evolved endlessly, but yeah, there was some sort of recording mechanism.
We tested this during the day and it works fine. I have no idea what's happening with this whole setup. The only thing that we can offer is to have, I know that we spent money on this setup, but the only alternative is to get something else, which I don't know how much it will cost. We can certainly explore that if you want us to, whatever the board
But
wants.
it's not the camera that's failing, it's the computer seems to be the issue. Right?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because it's connected to that camera, because we don't have this problem anywhere else.
Make sure
But
you just-
this right here.
I mean, I'd be happy if we could fix it. I'd be happy because I would prefer to have the meetings here.
So is it better? I mean, not that I'm gonna call him Bob and I shouldn't call him Bob. John, I apologize to John, but can we just ask John to see if there's something going on with that computer and the connection on that and really just try to, is it as simple as that's an old laptop and it's getting tired and it's not talking to that the way it's supposed to? Or is it beyond that?
I don't really have an answer.
I don't know, because Brooke tested it during the day. We were at the SAU, we logged into the meeting and it works fine. And Josh tried to test it and it worked fine. So I
And
don't
it's the same
understand.
computer and everything.
Same everything,
Same everything, but it just doesn't work when we need it.
apparently.
My technological
Stephen
aptitude
I
is just,
want to tell you.
I mean, I'm okay with like spending maybe another month. I mean, it's not my decision, it's the board's decision, obviously, but I'm just talking for myself. I'm okay for trying to fix it again in another, give it another month or so, but I think we really do need to fix this. It needs to be where it's a good system that people can rely on.
I think you see how February goes, you try that, you have John with the system, and then you deal with it in March.
There are potentially going to be 2 new board members who may have feelings about the
Definitely gonna be
location.
one.
What?
There's definitely gonna be one.
There's definitely gonna be one, hopefully not 2. But who knows what will happen, but, so I would propose that we get things like a price for something new. I also think we could improve the audio.
Well, we're not using the extra mic.
Yeah, it's broken.
We broke the extra mic.
Not the microphone's broken, but the connection apparently to the camera.
I don't know who it's jammed in.
We have other
Wasn't
school
me.
boards in the.
I have been here.
Yes.
So I will ask Josh.
I've been to
which
3
board
meetings.
is Having the most success and what are they using to do it? That would be great. Allen
And I think-
started recording, Chichester started recording. I think Epsom's the only one that doesn't at this point. So they all do something different, so I can just find out who's having the best walk in. what they're using.
And Kristen, would it be okay if I asked you, if you maybe asked like the staff and some of the people that come to the meetings as well, like I know Chris comes. realtors, to you guys and other people, would they mind terribly if we have it?
I should have to ask. The nice thing about George B. White, if you don't mind me saying, is that it is already set up. It's the microphones are there, the camera's there, the chairs are set up. I mean, this is a
That's true.
if we
Yeah, you
this
always
didn't
have to figure it
happen, right? Exactly. Brian and I are up here. Lisa, when she's available, we set it up. So it is nice to know that it's already set up and ready to go.
Yeah.
No matter what. And Charlie's is right next door.
That's true.
I mean,
This is true. So yeah, I would propose that we sort of price it out.
yeah, we can do that. I'll ask staff.
We take one last step to see if we can fix the technical issues. And then we evaluate. Yeah, I would personally propose doing like the first meeting with new people.
I'm okay with that. I just feel like this just needed to be talked about.
Yeah, when Zach's not here.
And Zach's not here.
Okay. So that is it for immediate business, and we are back to public comments.
I think one of the biggest issues is using WebEx. I don't think it's user friendly. You should definitely look into using Zoom. I completely advocate for going to the George B. White because it's so easy. One of the biggest things for people is it's posted live and then it's immediately available. We never know when the school board video is going to be uploaded, so it's nice to be like, oh, okay, missed the meeting. I can look at up at 9 o'clock tonight and watch it. So I like what I'm hearing. I hope to see some improvement there. Thank you very much.
Thank
Go ahead, Kim.
Hemlock Meeting House Hill. I had a rhetorical question, I guess, when we brought up the climate and culture surveys, whether or not we ever reviewed the Bright Future 603 surveys from the DOE that's submitted by parents apply to it, staff, students. I know it's a newer report that they have out there, I think about a couple of years, but it is feedback, basically community-based for the schools. Regarding the calendar, I just wanted to note that as a co-Brown student way back in the day, the Concord athletes were going to school the same time that we started because those sport programs start at the same time. So I think it was advantageous for myself to have school and sports, and at least our parents didn't have to go back and forth. So I think when those start times work, extracurricular and academics, it's favorable for the families. Regarding the class size, I appreciate that being brought up. I do think it's important to look at it as each class based. So if there isn't a need for 3 students or 3 teachers per classroom, that moves, when there's a need for 4, that moves with those classes. So I really think that needs to be reviewed with each class annually and not as kind of like a status quo to maintain a bookmark. So it's not a problem that doesn't have to be addressed, because we all know the problems need to be addressed. So if we know that there's a classroom that has 10 students in it, for 8 years, you're going to get that town feedback that's not going to be favorable. So making those changes and making those hard choices ahead of time. I know it's not great for staff, but I do think it's important. I will say that regarding my son's current preschool, he's not enrolled here because of the struggle with a few hours. Obviously, he's got a classroom of 18. They usually have 1 to 2 staff, depending on how many students are in there, their state requirements and such. But it doesn't seem to be a problem with that larger class. And I do think that it works better for them to have those mixed students where kids aren't getting along. It's not the same 4 kids in each group. They can mix that up to make the kids have a big day. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Shute, 50 Pleasant Hill Road. Under the culture and climate thing, I can't remember when it stopped, to be honest, but school board used to invite the staff to 2 meetings a year, one in the fall and one in the spring. And it was before the regular meeting, although public could be there. It wasn't a secret meeting by any means, but it was an opportunity for staff and school board to have conversations about things going on in the school. And so it wasn't just a citizen's comment where they said something and there was actually dialogue between. And it just kind of was a nice way for staff to see school board. Those who don't live in town got to see you and have an opportunity to talk. So it might be something to put on a back burner to think about again. It gives the staff in here. And as far as like with class size and everything, I do have to agree with Ellen that sometimes classes can be too small. I had a class of 13 one year, and it was a tough year because it was hard to group them. But as far as staff moving, we did it. I still will remember the day that the assistant principal came into my room as I was teaching 3rd grade and informed me I was moving to 2nd grade, and I had no idea it was going to happen. But it kind of sounded like the Charlie Brown whack, whack, whack. But it was what was best for the school at the time, and I think we're pretty flexible, and we'll do that if it's good for the school.
Thank you.
Harold Rhodes, Church Street. I'm delighted to hear the conversation about improving your communication with the town, which I think is I think it's a strategic conversation. Being in your house is like being insular, and sort of conveniently keeps other people out. Having the technology and the centrality, and bigger chairs, is sort of makes it feel more like a grown-up kind of thing. But it's a strategic thought. It's about how you get along with the community. So I would encourage. I mean, everybody comes in when he shows up. The fire chief leaves his house. The police chief leaves his house. They come to where the town, can hear what they have to say, and I think that's an important thing to think about to help your outreach as you. As I see on the budget process, I think you're working very hard to have a budget pass that people want to see done. It's reaching out to what you've done with the schools, reaching out to the communities. It's all good stuff. Stand up to the communication. Be a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda McNair Perry, 14 Range Road. Since I was the public member that was talking about sprinklers and codes, just to clarify, the town can adopt the code different. They just have to have the state. It has to be listed at the state website, and it's not. So that's why I'm saying that there's not anything different. I might recommend, especially since it's $100,000, because it will not cost you $100,000. What my recommendation is, and that's hire an engineer. Hire a sprinkler, somebody who knows sprinklers, a fire protection engineer. I can give you a list of a bunch of them.
But can I just jump in briefly?
Sure.
So the prints were designed by a fire protection engineer. So we've had an engineer involved in the project. He was involved.
But I'm just saying, you almost need a mediator, is what I'm saying now. You need somebody that's willing to go up against the fire chief.
Yeah.
And, that's all, because the one control that the fire chief has is he can check the building. So that's why I want you to be careful with possibly spending $100,000 or whatever, and then finding out, the fairground, for instance, has been up against that, where all of a sudden it's like, we might not be having a fair because the fire marshal came through, he likes something. So just saying, sometimes it helps to have another voice, that third party. It might be, $5,000 well spent, maybe. I know you don't have $5,000 this year. Just throwing it out there. It's a risky thing to go up against the guy that can close your building without having a full understanding. Just a suggestion. And I'd be happy to give you some names.
Other public comments? Okay, do we have any non-public? Okay, great. I will make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.